Good afternoon. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the opportunity to address a subject that I think we all consider to be fundamental. To begin, fundamental for the quality of the project and its documentation. And, of course, either if we work as architects on the governance side or on the production side. And ultimately to the quality of the built environment. I thank the Croatian Chamber for the invitation, and I would also like to thank Dubravko and Robert for their kind support in this organization. I would like to start by addressing the president's the chamber president, who said something like she would like to ask us now how is the problem being solved in our countries. And following Switzerland and the UK, I would have to say that in Portugal we are struggling, not exactly like my colleagues before. So in Portugal, the profession of architect is regulated. Only those architects that are registered at the Order of Architects may practice the activities reserved to the profession, and this is regardless of the way they perform them, whether they are in the public sector or the private sector, or they are self-employed or employees. Only those who are registered may practice the activities reserved to our profession. And what are these activities? They are both reserved and exclusive, and I have a problem here, not the second one, it's not are the shared ones. It's the elaboration of studies, projects, and the architectural plans, appreciation of studies, projects, and architectural plans, other activities that are identified in special legislation, and also shared with other professionals are all studies, plans, and consultancy management, supervision, and direction of works, planning, coordination, evaluation activities related to building, urbanism, conception, and design. This is a bit of a regulatory framework. In 2009, a key event occurred in Portugal. We revoked the Decree Law 73/73. This law referred to the qualification required to technicians responsible for construction projects, and it allowed for both architects and non-architects to subscribe architectural projects. It was done in a particular moment of the Portuguese history. We had high rural exodus, the growth of the main metropolitan areas, Lisbon and Oporto, and also a very small number of architects, around 500 at the time. So there were not enough architectural professionals in the market to respond to that construction boom. But then it was also supposed to be a transitional period, but it lasted for 36 years until 2009, but still has reflexes on the architectural practice in Portugal. There was a huge movement from architects and society in general before 2009, and it was a petition that was brought to the parliament stressing that on one hand, the solution in force was incompatible with architectural's role in the society, whether it's the cultural, the social, or the economic role. And from a legal point of view, there was a clear violation of the Qualifications Directive. So this would lead the Parliament to recognize the importance of changing the situation and assuming this change to be fundamental to the quality of life. So in 2009, we had the Law 31 approved. It marked a step forward in the right to architecture to all citizens, and from the point of view of the legislative framework a fundamental moment for the exercise of our profession. It introduced other interesting issues in the panorama of architectural services. First of all, because it considered not only project services, but also construction services, and not only private works, but also public works. It established the technical qualification necessary for the performance of the functions of technical direction of the construction, and also for the supervision of the construction and the coordination of the project. It also established project as a coordinated set of written and drawn documents, which includes an ordinance project and all the other projects, together defining the design, and also the required qualifications and competencies. All of these professionals can be architects. The project coordinator represents the team, guarantees the compatibility of projects. The director for the construction works ensures the execution of the work. The director for supervision ensures that the construction work conforms to the project. I should also underline that these two functions, both the supervision and direction, are not performed by the architect who is responsible for the project. In Portugal, the architectural project author, has a specific role on construction site. It's called a technical assistance to the construction works, and I will report on that later. But from 2009 until today, we had a bit of a setback. First of all, in 2015, and then in 2018, where we can observe a reduction of the scope of activities that are given to architects, and also, again, some Portuguese engineers have, through the alleged acquired rights, have the right to do and subscribe architectural projects. Also, a further reduction of this scope of activities. So I should summarize what are the reserved activities for architects. As I have told you, those that come directly from our statute, which is elaboration and the appreciation of studies, the other studies that are shared, project coordination, construction supervision, construction direction, and also through specific legislation, thermal studies, fire safety projects, safety and health plans, prevention and management of construction and demolition waste plans, and also universal accessibility plans. The subjects of standards and fees are, of course, closely connected, as we have been seeing during the afternoon. In Portugal, regarding the legal framework in 1972, and it won't be that strange that I'm going back to 1972, regarding the legal framework, we have published a diploma that contained the instructions for calculating fees for public works and projects. Although its scope of application was only the public procurement, these instructions were the reference for both architects and engineers for the calculation of fees for design services, both public or private, and were in force until the prohibition of fee scales. In addition to the method for calculating fees, it also defined the various phases in which the project is developed, and also the information that must be developed in each phase and included in the documents. So these would be the phases that were listed, and you have a percentage of the amount of effort those phases mean, and also it correlates with the fees, the division of fees, the total fees. So fees equal the sum of amounts due for the preparation of all the projects that were delivered. Those were the projects at the date. And like my other colleagues, we also had a formula, or more than one formula, based on a percentage of the value of the work. And it was prior to the euro, it was in our old coin, escudos, and then we had it divided through categories, like Dubravko said at the beginning of his presentation. What happened? 2008, we are putting in force the public procurement codes, CCP in Portuguese, and it profoundly changes the legislation on public works and contracts. It was the transposition into the Portuguese law of the European directives, and also it revoked the calculation for fees for public works. Although this happened in 2008, it was through a ministerial order that the fees were revoked. And what happened is that this diploma approved the mandatory content of the program and the execution project, all the procedures and standards to be adopted in the preparation of public works projects, and it was designated instructions for the preparation of works projects. It also went through the classification of works by categories. This diploma also made some amendments to the project phases I have showed you before, their contents, and eliminated all procedures for calculation and evaluation of fees, leaving our market without any reference regarding the fees of architectural services. So these are the phases. By agreement, some of the phases may be exempted from formal presentation to public works, but these I won't be reading. This is quite similar across all presentations. You have the deliverables for each phase. I would go through them quite quickly. The base program, that's schematic design, with description, graphic elements, dimensioning, general definition of the construction processes, analysis of thermal energy and acoustic performance, and then estimated costs, design development, also adding some identification of technical spaces and studies, also the general work program, detailed design, which develops the approved base project, including a very thorough description, calculations, measurements, budget drawings, everything we all know. And then the technical assistance I have mentioned earlier. So the architect has the right to demand and the obligation to guarantee all necessary technical assistance to the construction. So it works on two moments, in the phase of the contract formation procedure and until the award of the works. It complies with all these tasks. Then during the execution of the construction works, and then special technical assistance that has some added tasks to the technical assistance. So this is for public procurement, but in private procurement, what is stated is only that an architectural project, the ones that are submitted to permits, it says only that architectural project is this that I have on my slide. Plans, elevations, cross-sections, construction details, and discrimination of the parts of the buildings. So, in Portugal, we also have another instrument. It is a Portuguese standard regarding the services provided by the architect and also the landscape architect in construction works. And this instrument is very interesting, but has a problem. It is not of free access, so it is not very well promoted. I would say many architects don't even really know it. And it probably is the most similar to the things that my previous colleagues were showing. So it organizes the project in 6 stages. It accesses all the life cycle of the building, not only the project, but the entire life cycle of the building. And each phase meets a list of services divided in 2 types of services: project design services and also certification and management services. Behind this standard, there is a fundamental objective or aim, which is to typify the services and establish quality criteria for their provision in order to support the drafting of service provision contracts. I will now show you another table regarding this norm, this Portuguese norm. It further develops on the deliverables on each phase. So you can check that project services are those that take the form of a study of the project, divided in design services and then complementary services and studies. And certification and management services are those that involve certification and issuing of experts' opinions and advices if necessary. Certification and validation services comply with the administrative procedures, judicial, fiscal, supervision. Consultancy and management services are aimed at optimizing the processes and procedures. So you can check the table for the different stages of the life cycle of the building and see where the architects will provide their services. So this is the project stage. Then still in the project stage with design development and detail design. Here in competition, we are talking about the competition for the construction. So we also give consultancy on this phase. And now on the construction stage, pre-construction, construction, end of construction. And then, like my colleague from Switzerland was talking about, maybe I think it was phase number 6, we are talking about the use with operations and maintenance. And then also the end of life renovation and dismantle. So, I want to recall and underline that the fee calculation that I referred to prior were from 1972. And what happens is that having no other model, many architects still use the calculation method, that calculation method. So, of course, what happens is that probably this means a disadvantage for the architect, not only the architect, but also the engineers and other designers due to inflation, for one hand. And also what happens is that competition for the single price criterion has increased, and these were kind of obvious consequences one would expect. And even the fixing of the base price of the public contracting procedures for the architectural services, with this kind of deregulation on fees, became a problem to the public procurer. One would say that regarding the experience the public procurer has, it would be in an advantage, but usually what we can check is that there is an inability to fix fees that are adequate to the work and services that are provided by designers. So as a result, the public procurer, instead of pursuing what is procurement based on quality criteria, ends up choosing procedures that are simpler procurement models, which are administratively less complex, that are faster, and that use the lowest price as the sole criteria for choosing the architect. So given the deregulation of fees, one would say that what was intended to be advantage to the consumers is in fact ignoring the interest of consumers. And I would go back to what my colleague from Switzerland was saying, that in the case of architecture, we are not speaking of the interest of the client, we are speaking of the interest of the general citizens to receive high quality, safe, durable, and of services of great value. So we know that architecture is a kind of service that is it's distinguished by asymmetric information between the one that provides the service and the one that receives the service. That we have a complex ecosystem where we act with lots of laws, and it's very heterogenic. That the nature of the benefits for our clients are not always of a tangible nature, and we also affect third parties. So this means that somehow we should find a way to promote regulation regarding also the fees, but other kinds of regulation as a form of guaranteeing the public interest in quality of architecture. This weakening of the regulation ends up weakening also the quality of the architecture. So what happens is that due to the lack of references, also not only the public procurer but also the private procurer end up following all these trends. So I would say that I would think that in Portugal we were starting to see somehow a change in the way the public procurer sees the problem with the fees. But we have seen in recent years some exercises in terms of setting prices for the procedures in architectural services that are different from the model I have showed you before. So even the public procurer starts to try to check a model where it thinks of the number of hours that are spent on each project, and he establishes a maximum hourly rate he is willing to pay for those projects. But this would be, I would say, a positive view on this matter of fees, but at the same time, this public procurer is also working on a new amendment to the public procurement law, aiming to extend the scope of design-build processes. And nowadays, they are restricted to highly complex works, and we are now discussing the design build to be possible to all kinds of uses, programs across public procurement. I would say that from the point of view of fees, in Portugal, the competition authority is not even open to references. We cannot even speak about references, not only about fee scales, but not even about references. So what we did at the Portuguese Order of Architects in 2016 was to develop a tool similar to some of the ones we have seen before, which is a calculator of the costs of the projects, not a calculation of the fees. So it helps, it's a way to help all the architects to find an adequate way to get to the value of their work. Let me see, I think I am getting to the end, yes. I hope it's not the same perfect experience we have seen before, but I hope it can help you foreseeing some of the problems you might expect in the future. Thank you.